Late in the year of 2024, a large amount of information about the CRISPR technology was released. Now, normally this wouldn't be so much of an issue, as those who had developed the information had decided, we'll just say it will help you out in 10 to 20 years, and by then the collective consciousness will have forgotten about it. Well, they underestimated the ingenuity of the general public. Those that could understand the technology began to build devices inside their homes, and then began to either fix themselves, as the technology had the ability to do so, or to modify themselves, make them bigger, stronger, or leaner, or whatever it might be. It wasn't long before the whole idea of medical treatment had changed, and soon large buildings had been commissioned by the super rich who wanted to stay ahead of everything and allowed people to modify themselves or get themselves fixed from any disease or any type of debilitating disorder they might have. This is where we start. I remember watching the entire thing. I've seen many people go in and come out 10 years younger. They don't have back problems anymore. I've seen women go in who are 40 years old, flattered on a pancake, come out 20 years old and voluptuous as anything. However, it comes at a price, of course, namely money. I lucked out in this because the VA covers me. Most of it, of course. I just still had to save up a bit to cover the rest of the cost. However, as long as it's going to be covered, I'd rather get 2 good working knees and 2 good working shoulders and everything else. Of course, it would be nice to have a back that functions correct again. As we're being bussed in, everyone is talking about all the different things that's going to happen. Only about 10% actually needed something fixed. All the rest were trying to modify themselves for different things. There was even one who was getting himself changed into, oh God, he was going to be part fox. And all I could think of was why. I didn't want to talk to this guy. So, as we got to the facility, there was another day full of filling out different forms. Of course, I had to read every single one because I don't read, or I don't sign anything I don't read. I mean, what idiot would? And then it was time to get our final confirmations and then off to the pod room. After we all agreed, no one left. We were told that before we entered the pod room, we had to disrobe. There was, of course, some apprehension to that, since nobody had thought about this, except for the one who kept telling us that yes, you would have to. We thought he was joking. However, many people were hesitant to remove their clothing beforehand, but you can't wear clothes in the pod. It just confuses the AI. After a little convincing, the last of everyone was disrobed, given the number of their pod, and led to their location. Each one of us walked up, signed into the console next to our pod, using not only our iris scan, but our handprint and then thumbprint. And then it took a small pinch of DNA to make sure it was us. They could not have any confusion. Climbing into the pod, I was more than a little worried, although just a little cold. They could have at least turned the temperature up. Laying in the pod, it was sat at a 45-degree angle with a strange metal and glass covering over it. I looked up and thought, that looks a lot like a canopy from a fighter jet. That's strange. And as I got in, I noticed that the canopy wasn't shutting. And then we were told they all shut at once. This confused me because we would be coming out at different times. Maybe this was just some weird thing they did. Then finally they got the last person in and the canopy shut. It sounded just like it does on those aircraft as it lowered. As the pressure stabilized inside, I kind of felt my ears pop. So I made sure my ears were popped and lowered my hands. I figured there was some sort of gas as I knew I was starting to get kind of drowsy. I was already tired, but I was getting more and more drowsy. I could feel the fluid, the liquid oxygen, along with a mix of other chemicals coming up from my feet, filling this pod. I knew I'd probably be knocked out before the chemicals got to my face, so I tried my best to let sleep take me. Kind of hard to do that when your heart's beating so fast. But then, it was almost like somebody was turning off the dimmer switch very quickly, and the light slowly faded. I awoke to the feeling of the fluid flowing away from me, like somebody had just pulled the drain and it was all going down. It was a very odd experience, that warm liquid going away from me, and all I could think of is warm liquid. Ugh. As I slowly began to shake the sleep out of my eyes. But then I realized I couldn't barely breathe. I couldn't open my eyes. Raising my hands up, I realized I was covered in this odd slime. Reaching up to my face, I wiped it away from my mouth and took a deep breath as I heard the pod pop open, and then reached up to my eyes, feeling the sludge in between my fingers as I pressed hard to push the slime away from my eyes so I could open it up. Just barely able to see anything through all this sludge. Spitting and coughing slightly, I could see the pod opening more and more. The light had already come on as I was trying to shake off the sleep. Attempting to raise myself up, I have a hard time getting a grip as this slime is still all over my hands and I can't quite lift myself. Leaning forward, I'm able to get some of it to start oozing down the rest of my body, and yet there's still so much more of it left. I look around, and to my surprise, the main lights are not on, but the emergency lights are. This is odd. I know I should be one of the first ones to wake up, but what the hell is going on? And why am I covered in this gunk? I was never told about this in any of the briefings. As I begin to pull myself up and try to scrape more and more of this junk off, I raise my hands up and run it through my hair, and all that slime just goes down the back and lands on the pod, almost sounding like a wet shit falling on the floor. I would have laughed if it wasn't for the fact this whole situation was just wrong. Looking around, I can see some of the pods were open, but only a few. Trails of that green and blue slime headed towards the door from whichever pod they came from. As I walked over, I could see that there were others beneath me that must have woken up before me. However, I also saw a body. Still slightly delirious, I made my way down to it as fast as possible. I grabbed it and flipped it over. I jumped back in surprise as I realized this thing did not look human. What the fuck is this? I screamed, and looked around more and more to see if there was anything else. Realizing I was bare-ass covered in sludge, I decided to walk and follow the trail of slime out the door, scraping all that junk off as I went. Right outside the door, the old trails of slime, most of it had dried up, and it all went in different directions. I stopped for a moment and looked, and realized that these were not footprints that I see. Not all of them, anyway. I used to track deer and coyotes and turkey all the time. These were not human footprints. And some were, but they seemed... Well, one looked like it was at a run. Another looked like... That was strange. It almost in a serpentine formation as it went down. But that went a totally different direction. I looked to the left and right, and yes, that's all I saw was dried slime. Confused, I went back inside and looked around and counted up the pods that were still there. that were open. Out of the 300 that were there, 16 pods had been opened, to include myself. The rest, only about 2/3 of those remains still had power going to their consoles. I walked over to one of the consoles that didn't have any power and I tried to activate it. I looked over and it was completely done. Looking inside, I could see that whoever, or in this case, whatever was inside, had died a long time ago. I lowered my head for a moment and then raised it back up, realizing that I am still naked, covered in slime, and I don't know what the hell's going on. So I left the area and I tried to remember which way we went when we first got here. To the briefing room would be the most likely place to be. Or, wait, no, the lockers. That's right, the lockers. The lockers had showers. I can get this junk off me. Now, which way were they? To the right. I turn and I move at a brisk pace down to the lockers, my muscles screaming at me as though they have atrophied a bit, my joints popping only slightly now that they have been able to move a little bit. I find the locker room. I find the old trails of slime, and they go into the lockers. As I go to turn the shower on, I receive an unpleasant surprise. The only thing that comes out of them is a trickle of brown liquid. It looks like rust. What the hell is going on? I go and find the locker that is assigned to me, my name still tacked up on the side. I remember the combination. I kept saying it to myself before I went into sleep. Opening up, I found the towel I was going to use to hose myself off, and I began to get that junk off of me as best I could. Eventually, throwing the towel to the side as it was soaked with that goop, but I was cleared of most of it. Reaching in, I grabbed my clothes, and that's when I first realized something was wrong with my hands. This is the first time I stopped and got a good look. Something was off. Starting to freak out, I ran over to where the sinks were, sliding as there was still more goop on the floor. I slipped around the corner and then fell right next to the sinks. Under the flickering light of the sinks, I saw myself. Or I didn't know if that was me. I looked into the eyes of something that was blue. No kidding. Light, just darker than infantry or baby blue. My skin, what was this? What was this? My hair? It was like a white silver. This is not my face. This can't be my face. I reached up towards the mirror. I saw my hand. I realized it was blue too. I reached up and touched my face, and the reflection did the same. What am I? Beginning to lose my ability to speak, my ability to stand. I dropped back onto my knees and barely could see my face in the mirror over the sink. I looked, and then I looked down to my body, my finally cleaned off body for the first time. What am I? Seriously, what the fuck am I? How? This was just supposed to fix my knees and my back and what the... At that point, I must have blacked out, because I opened my eyes staring up at the bathroom ceiling. I looked around and there wasn't anything there. So I got up, saw my own reflection in the mirror, and it still took me by surprise. I thought someone else was staring back at me, and I had to grip onto the side of the sink again. It was everything I could do at that point not to retch all over the place, and yet I had simply started to come to terms with this reality. The machine had done something to me. I have no idea what, but I guess they can fix it, can't they? Going back to the locker, I start putting on my clothes. Most of them don't fit. I'm kind of leaner in some areas and bigger in others. What the hell is wrong with this picture? This is not right. What is wrong with me? What am I? And then I realized something. Wait a minute. I ran back to the mirror and I looked. Something I hadn't noticed before. There might be. And I put my hands on my head. Do I have horns? Oh, thank God. No, I don't. That's just the way the hair was. Oh, gross. More goop. Ugh. Going back, I grabbed what clothes I could. Thankfully, my shoes kind of fit. They were a little big on me now. It was hard to get the pants buttoned, and the shirt was almost too big, draping down my body, yet it was tight. That was weird. Thankfully, I had myself a hooded sweatshirt, and you really can't go wrong with that. Yet, this thing looks like it's seen better days. The hell? I just bought this thing, I remember thinking. After being dressed, I went back to the room I had started from, back to the pods. And I looked around, and I finally got the courage to go to that thing I had rolled over before. And I got a good look at it. This thing was of a humanoid shape, but it was like a fish. It was aquatic. I looked, and the hands, one of them was still latched to the side of the neck. I looked to the other side, and sure enough, there was gills. It was clear this thing had choked to death. But wait, if the machines did this to me, turned me into this blue freak, and they turned this thing into some sort of an amphibian or fish, what the hell else was around here? It was strange. I spent the next hour or so going down each of the catwalks looking at what might be inside the pods. It was pretty much impossible to tell, as every single one was covered in that pink and purple blue goo that was just all over the place. However, some of the figures were clearly not human. What the fuck? I kept saying as I went to each one. I looked to a few to see what the timer was, and I looked to see how long it would be until they would burst out. To my surprise, it would only be another 2 days before the next few were going to start opening up. I guess I should stick around, but then again, I'm not sure if I want to. What is going on? I decided since, I can't stay here the whole time, and I'm starting to get hungry. I better find a cafeteria or something. Walking out, I remembered that the cafeteria we passed on the way in was in the other direction, so I turned left this time and followed the slime that looked like it moved in a serpentine trail, like something was dragged left to right constantly. What the hell did this? I said to myself as I moved down the perfectly quiet hallway. I tried to move as lightly as possible. However, I found out that I didn't need to move as gingerly as I thought. I didn't seem to have as much mass on me as before. I wasn't shorter. That was for certain. Or else the pants would have been underneath my ankles. If anything, I was a little taller. Maybe even just slightly. But still moving around, I finally found the cafeteria, but unfortunately, everything was rotten. Everything I found was either picked clean or completely rotted. And when I opened the freezer to see what was inside, I nearly puked my guts out then and there from the stench that came out. But then I took a second look and I saw that there was something else inside. That something else was almost enough to haunt my dreams. There was a snake. A huge snake. I could just see its tail when I opened everything up. Just barely. But I wanted to get a good look, so when I closed the door, I tried to wipe away the edge of the window. The hell is going on in there? How did we get a snake in here? Is all I could think. And I look closer. Wait a minute. I see an arm in there. Is it swallowing someone? Oh, that's a harsh way to go. That's horrible. That's not moving. Neither of them are moving. What is going on? As I watched for a long time, I lost track of time as I watched. And I could see that possibly one of them was breathing. But I couldn't see which one because of the boxes that were in the way. So I decided to press my luck just a little bit. And I opened the door. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen and I moved in, thinking, well, if this thing lunges at me, at least I can shove this butcher knife down its throat. And I moved slowly towards it, as softly as I could, avoiding any type of vibration, because I know any type of movement, any type of vibration can set a snake into alert mode. I walked a long way around, pieing around the corner so I could see the snake's head and possibly see the person too. And I had to freeze where I was. That wasn't a snake. That wasn't a person. What I saw was a female form, naked all the way down until it got to its hips. About mid-hips, the legs had seized together and come together as a long tail. What? Is all I could think to myself. How? What? Huh? I tried not to make any noise. I didn't even want to touch it. But the protector instinct of me wanted to get closer. It was a woman that was possibly still alive, and I needed to protect her. Slowly I moved forward. I got on the other side of the shelf from where she was lying. Silently, I moved a few boxes out of the way. Then I reached forward, and with my fingers I pressed slightly on the left side of her neck. Nothing. I moved my fingers a little bit. Nothing. I once again checked just a little bit below the jaw. Nothing. This thing was dead. I don't know how, but it was dead. I walked around, still clutching the knife in my hand just in case this thing decided to jump scare me. And I walked up from its head and stood over it, and I looked down at the face. I pulled back the eyelids to see if there was any possible response. The eyes were solid black, just like a snake, but still in a human head. This made me jump as I realized, oh crap, she might be playing possum. I got the knife in position to stab it forward just in case she decided to jump at me. But nothing. I moved up more. I didn't see any battle scars. There was no weapons penetrating it. How did this thing just die like that? I looked, and there were several boxes of food in there that were probably bad by the time it got there. And then it hit me. Something like this would have been unbelievably hungry. They would have needed to eat, and they would have put caution to the wind as they filled their belly. With a rotten food like this, oh, I'm sure they died in a considerable amount of pain. I reached forward, and with one hand I closed her eyes. You didn't deserve this, I said, as I backed away and left her there. After leaving the freezer, I closed the door and made it a makeshift crypt for her. Looking around, I still didn't find anything. The vending machines had already been broken open, all the chips and everything else taken. I did find one random can of soda which I popped open, tried to drink it, and immediately hacked it up and puked my brains out. Whatever I was now could not drink this, ugh. Oh, God, even thinking of it again makes me want to vomit. Searching around for any type of food, I finally was able to find a storage locker with some of the old clothes from the employees. I started searching the pockets, and I lucked out, and I found one of them old Cliff Bars. This'll have to do for now. And I wolfed it down as fast as I could. Thankfully, this one didn't have any ill effects. However, I had to find some water, and quick. It didn't matter if I was human or not. I needed water, and I needed it fast. Searching everywhere I could, I only found water in one place, and I was not looking forward to it. Inside one of the janitor's closet was an old-fashioned toilet. So I opened up the back reservoir. The water was stale and looked like it was contaminated with rust, but at this point, I needed the water more than I needed to be safe. Reaching in, grabbing a handful, I pulled it out. Not seeing any type of particulates in it, I started to drink. I must have drank 10, 12, 15 handfuls before I was satiated enough. And then I heard something. There was something else moving in this facility. Reaching for the knife, I fell back on my old training, and I reversed the blade so that I could punch, slash, and stab depending on which way I moved my hand. Looking out, I could hear something was moving around. What was it? Something was here. Something might be dying soon. Moving out as quietly as I could, I headed back towards the hallway and looked out into the hallway, one side, then the other. I didn't see anything. I didn't hear anything else. And then, what was that? Further down the hall, one of the offices. I moved down past the wall, being very careful not to make any noise. But I could hear something rumbling through a desk drawer. It sounded like a drawer was being opened and emptied on the floor. That was a pretty obvious sound. I got close, very close. And I realized I couldn't just stick my head in. And then I realized the knife. Moving the knife over and trying to use the edge as a mirror. It worked. There was something in there. Something. What the hell is that? It looked like it was reaching in, grabbing the drawers, and then just dumping them on the floor, then throwing them off to the side. What was it looking for? What was going on? Before I knew it, I realized the thing might have heard me as it stopped moving and looked towards me. I slowly retracted the blade. I hoped it didn't see the reflection. At the first motion, something came outside. I lunged forward as fast as I can, grabbing a hold of it right where the neck would be, throwing it to the ground, and putting my knife right up above my hand so it would be in their face. Whoa, 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 whoa! It screamed. What are you? Whoa! You're awake! You're awake! Yeah! Stop! Don't kill me! Don't kill me! Is all I could hear. Letting my heart slow down, I looked down to see something that was, I couldn't tell if it was, I think it was female at the time, but this thing was red, and it had horns coming out of its head. That was not meant to rhyme, but that's what I was thinking. And what the hell is wrong with your eyes? They're glowing, some sort of pinkish yellow shit. I just looked and said, "Who are you?" It's me, Sam Baker. I was in the pods. Don't kill me, man. Don't kill me. I retracted the blade a little bit so that he would calm down. I just came out of the pods. You want to tell me what in the fuck was happening around here? I'll tell you, man. You just, ease off, man. Ease off. All right. I can ease off. I went to stand up, and I looked down at that red body, and that was a good reason I thought it was androgynous. At first glance, you couldn't tell until you looked south of the border, male or female. And this was a guy? I tried to remember back. Was this the one that said he wanted to be a ferret or something? Whatever, I don't care. When it got up, I asked him what was going on and why is he still naked? Well, most of my clothes don't fit anymore. So I was coming in here to find some sort of key or something. I figured they would have some sort of storage locker. How long you been awake? I asked him. 3 days? What else is here? I asked him. I don't know, man. There's shit moving around. Who are you? I wanted to stop for a second. Then I just said, my name's John. Okay, hey, look. Safety in numbers, man. But just... Oh, shit. You gave me a scare, man. I almost shit my own self and smeared it on my tail. Tail? I said. Yeah. And then I saw raising behind him was an actual tail. It looked similar to a rat tail, but it was much larger. I couldn't figure out what in the hell was going on. That was just weird. So what the hell happened to that machine? Look at me, look at you. I'm blue, you're red. Who's the next one going to come out, yellow or some shit? I don't know, man. I don't know. All I know is I had to clean out the machines. There's almost no food in here. I've been trying to look for a key to open the doors. We can't get out. What do you mean you can't get out? The doors are locked, man. They're sealed. I'm not strong enough to break them down. I mean, look at me. Look how skinny this new body is. I used to be a bull. Now I'm just... Look at this twig. Yeah, I raised my hand saying, yeah, you made your point. All right. So anyway, what about the staff? Anything from them? No, I don't know. The staff was just gone. There was nobody around. I heard some movement before, but I don't know what happened, man. It's just... Hold on, I'm still trying to get my heart to slow down. I get you. I understand. Just relax a second. I stuck my head out the door a little bit, looked left and right. All right, we're clear for now. So whose office is this? I finally looked on the door, and it actually said head researcher on it. So this guy was actually pretty well off. If he was going to find any keys, this is the most likely place outside of a security checkpoint. And that's what I asked him next. What about the security checkpoints? You checked that? Yeah, well, the security checkpoints are on the other side of the doors, man. I can't get through them. All right. Point is made. All right. So, anyway, what about the others? You think waiting around for the others? Oh, man, we can't wait around for the others. Some of the stuff that's come out, man, it's scary. Yeah, I know. I saw the snake woman. There's a snake woman now? Oh, shit. That's all I thought was, oh, shit. Okay, calm down. She's not living. Whatever she ate killed her, so relax a second. Besides, I don't think she was getting very far on that tail. The snakes may move fast, but that tail was just way too short for her body size. Okay, man, okay. I'm cool. Anyway, I did find a couple sets of keys before I noticed something sparkling. Ooh, I'm guessing that was it, as he pointed to my knife. Yeah, it was this. I was trying to use it as a mirror. Didn't seem to work out too well, huh? He laughed, and we continued to break away and start checking for more keys. We did find several, actually, as we started to strip every single office we found, most of which looked like house keys, a couple sets of some for like a mini bar or something, and one which surprisingly looked like it was for handcuffs. The hell are these researchers into? Then again, at the look at the two of us, makes me wonder. Then suddenly here, oh man, look at this. And I heard the clinking of metal. Oh, you found the keys? That's awesome. Yeah, man, it should be great. Holy shit! I stopped, spun around, and there was something right behind me, maybe 10 feet away. This thing looked something straight out of a video game. Tall, wide, green skin with those fangs that stuck down from its upper lip and those god-awful big ears that looked like freaking Dumbo. It looked at us and simply stated, "Food." We looked at each other, me and the red one, and we don't have any food. It then looked, and I could see it starting to drool. "No. Food." It started moving towards us. I whipped the knife so that the point was facing towards him. That thing came at me and grabbed me around the neck and pushed me to the back. I jabbed the knife as far as I could forward, and it went straight into its gullet. And I twisted as it went between the abdominals. It didn't even slow this thing down. Its vice grip around my neck began to squeeze as I began to feel the blood start to be cut off as well as the air. I yanked the knife out, pulled it up, swung it around, grabbed him by the back of the head, and I jabbed the knife in the side of his neck, snapping it clean. I could feel the blood squirt past my fingers as I looked at the busted knife and thought, "Oh shit, I'm dead." And that's when I saw a red blur come over as a chair was brought down on the back of this thing's head. It stumbled forward and then stumbled back, looking at the red one. It released one of its hands and reached out at Bill as he still said, "Food." I struggled to get free of that second vice grip of a hand. As Bill stayed out of the way, it wasn't long until he decided to use me as a cudgel and threw me at Bill, and we both hit into each other and flew into the hallway. Scrambling to our feet, this thing moved forward, but it didn't quite have enough speed. It went to reach for us and then seemed to slow down and drop to one knee. It was pretty clear that second wound into the neck had severed the carotid artery, and it was starting to take effect. It only took about 30 more seconds as it dropped from one knee to two to slumping down, and then slowly dropped its head to the ground. I dropped down on my butt at the other side of the hallway as Bill sat there. "Dude, that was crazy. This is what I was talking about. A lot of things have gone freaking nuts around here. I don't know what the fuck is going on." I was still catching my breath over the whole thing, especially since I didn't have any air. I'm pretty sure I had ligament marks around my neck at that point. As soon as I could breathe properly, I looked back up at Bill and said, "So, you still got those keys?" He smiled, raised his hand, and I could hear the clinking in his hand as he showed them to me. We both got up, went to the main doors, and started checking all the keys. To our absolute delight, about the 10th or 11th key that we tried, it opened, and we were able to get over the security checkpoint. The security checkpoint, surprisingly, was still fully furnished and still had all its amenities. We looked over to see if there was any visuals we could get off the security cameras, but the security cameras were all dead. Apparently, they don't run off backup power. It wasn't long until I was able to find what I was really looking for at that point. Somebody had left their holster and their sidearm in a locker, and I strapped that on, although I barely got it on, as skinny as I was now. Bill found what he wanted, which was somebody's old lunch, and ripped open the snacks and the juice box and put them down before I even realized what was going on. The sandwich had long since been toasted and gone to the wayside. However, there was another snack in there that Bill handed over to me, and I gladly took it. We both then proceeded to the exterior doors, and that's when I realized things were even worse than I thought. Bill looked up and said, "Where's the key, man? Where do I put the damn keys?" "Bill, these are blast doors. They don't open with a key." Blast doors? What the hell's a blast door, man? A blast door is what you put down when you're about to get hit with something more explosive. What? Say somebody was trying to blow this place up. They would want to drive something in here, right? They would want to shoot the place up. They want to go in here, but you got to get through the doors, right? Yeah. Well, this is designed to take a semi-trailer or semi with a trailer, either way, at full speed. What, really? Yeah. Or a nuke straight to the face. As I knocked on it, I realized, no, this is thinner than those. This is just enough to take care of an RPG. So, what do we do? He asked me. Well, we look for the controls. Should be a switch around here somewhere. Check that side. I motioned over as I went to the opposite side, and I looked for a panel, and it didn't take long to find. We found the panel, and I hit the lever, and to my amazement, it actually worked. The blast door began to swing open. From the center out, it opened up, and we looked towards the parking lot. And that is when we both simultaneously looked out across a parking lot that was clearly overgrown with foliage and cars that haven't moved in Lord knows how many years. Oh, shit.